All right, welcome back. So this is coming up to week 4 now of this series. So this week we're going to be talking about Arab Americans and those from Muslim faiths or Islam. So this is again a population that you will work with and becoming more so as the years go by. I bring this up because this is also a pretty important topic. You can't go without noting, the socio-political thing here in the States. And as a clinician or even just a regular person, obviously that's a conversation that is probably will be tried to be pushed under the rug, but it's an obvious conversation to have. Depending on the modality of which you use, whether that's, CBT, narrative, solution focus, all these other different approaches, it's going to come up. So the number one key thing here, and I've worked with a lot of families, I have a lot of good friends who have lived there, and I've been very fortunate to get to know their stories. And number one thing is understanding that not all Arabs are Muslim and not all Muslims are Arabs. So it wouldn't be appropriate to kind of just, again, it's all grumping in, stereotyping it. So you could be Arab, but in the Middle East, but you could be Christian, you could be Arab, you could be another domination, Jewish, you could be, it's not all, you live in the Middle East, so you have to be Muslim. But maybe a vast majority are. So you just got to understand is that respecting that person's religious faith and also asking the question. Don't just jump into thinking, oh, well, you must be Muslim. Because I know when I first started, I didn't really pay attention. I didn't get the training, nor did I get the worldly experience. So it was only after that I really realized, okay, I was doing this all wrong. And that's, it's honestly, it's okay because you have to learn somehow. So that's okay. So another piece of it you're going to learn with these families is a lot of those who identify as Arab or Middle Eastern and who now live in the States, they're going to be almost living two lives. I've had multiple families say to me, well, you know what, Chris, I just feel like I'm living two lives. One with family, where I live my traditional upbringing, and then also one in the wider world, right, where people have to see me a certain way. And that's something, it's going to be nuanced. It's going to happen a lot in session, and it's going to be a lot of back and forth talking. So you've got to be able to respect that and be able to acknowledge and see the dichotomy between those two pieces. So again, just something to be aware of. You also got to think about the holidays, for example, like the religious holidays. I'm just thinking of Ramadan off the top of my head, but that's going to change how your clients present to session, right? Sundown to sunset, if they haven't eaten, it's going to change how they are, or you're going to have to respect setting appointments for that, or just respecting like having your food around them, right? Is that going to be, just acknowledging that their religious practices are going to be very different to one traditionally in the US or ethnocentric, European-centric ones. So, and this brings back also to, I know I had a predominantly female client who was about wearing the hijab or wearing the headscarf. We had a conversation about this and understanding that maybe here in the US, there may be some biases around, well, why do you have to wear that per se? Again, I'm just speaking from what I've heard and thought about. But a lot of females, women, choose that. If anything, this person I was speaking to felt empowered by wearing the hijab. So knowing that, not going into it assuming that this is not what someone wants, and And I think, again, with kind of how the socio-political backgrounds, we often get trapped in that, thinking that maybe one way is better versus one way or the other, or there is no open ground. So just want you to understand that instead of believing that maybe these females are controlled, we had a very long conversation about this, and it's a sense of empowerment. So all I'm saying is go in there with an open mind, and I mean that's helped me working with families tremendously, rather than having these preconceived biases, which has impacted my treatment, not only report but treatment. Hence, so it's important. So with all that being said, a lot of Arab population, Muslim, Islam, there's still a lot of stigma around mental health. Like, there is going to be shame. There's going to be an idea that this is maybe not what I meant to be doing, right? So have that conversation too. It's going to be important. So with all that being said, the things that I've used or worked with as a clinician is, instead of, and to add this to it, a lot of these maybe populations are coming through, which may be refugees, maybe immigrants, maybe, just coming over from war-torn countries, Syria, Iraq, Iran, all these different countries. So you've got to respect that there may be some sensitive things that they may not want to share with you. So the number one thing which I've learned is respecting them, and also working on a lot of strengths. For those who know the lingo, I've done a lot of solution focus, done a lot of kind of more structural work, and it seems to have been beneficial, because what you're doing is you're working on the strengths and the resources that have allowed this population to come and to work and to just be part of society, rather than just focusing so much on the trauma and what has made them survive has been super important, and I've noticed that too. So, and this could be also like, is it religion? Is it their faith which is really strong? Is it the social support? Is it the family? What is driving them? But working on the strengths and not so much delving so much in the past, giving them a sense of responsibility, like this is the positive, right? Obviously there's time when you can work on the past, but work on their strengths. Another thing we've also worked with my families, and I've learned is working with, and let's say this word right, but religious leaders. I think imams, but working with religious leaders with that population. So maybe like you would work in the US with maybe with a priest, maybe with a rabbi, working with these religious leaders, first off, like getting advice from them. Like, oh, okay, I'm really curious, is this something that maybe with your religion is something that I could work with? This is more, those who identify as Muslim. Getting their input, right? So rather than just telling the family what it is, work with their religious leaders if that's something that finds them important. And with that being said, also, the idea of, with the cultural idea of opposite sex. Right. I know I've had a male who only wanted to see a male, and a female who only wants to see a female. So knowing that when you schedule appointments and when you have those assessments, what is the dynamic gender? Because, or even shaking hands, that could be from what I've seen, a big no-no, right? A male is not going to shake a hand with a female, and that could be just my experience. I can't speak for the whole entire culture. But that's important too. So scheduling, finding people too. So, and then finally kind of asking like sensitive questions, alcohol, sex. Probably not going to be best to ask that. I mean, I know I usually wait until later on after I build rapport, but those can be pretty sensitive topics. So with all that being said, number one, kind of, understanding that Arabs are not Muslims and Muslims are not always Arabs, right? There is a difference there. And there's multiple different religions also too. Respecting the holidays, religious holidays. Also respecting and using religious figures, which may be part of that family, especially for those who identify as Muslim. Focusing on strengths. Number 4, focusing on strengths and resilience necessarily. What made them get here? If they're from a war-torn country, what made you get here? Number 5, asking about, empowerment, right? Rather than someone saying, oh, well, you must be controlled in that way. Well, maybe it's their choice. And that's, as a therapist and hopefully as just a human being, we can respect that. And number 5, and the last one is like their identity. They may be torn between 2 different identities, one of traditional, one of being here in the US and trying to adapt and acculturate to that. So with all that being said, if you can somehow understand that, and again, being positive, active listening and be respectful, that's at least my experience working with this population of families. So again, I hope you found that helpful. And next week we will cover more about refugees and immigration concerns. So, all right. Well, I wish you all the best, and I'll speak soon.